Hello and welcome to Emergency Preparedness. This time we're going to be talking about probably one of the most important parts of emergency preparedness, preparing your emergency kit. We're going to start by talking about what comes in a kit that we've offered before for you to buy. And then we're going to go on to talk about other things that you might add to that kit that are particularly for you, or add to what goes in a pretty basic kit. And lastly, we're going to talk about the 10 for 10 list, the things that aren't in your kit but are things you would need to grab if you had 10 minutes and you had to get out. So how do we know what to put in our emergency kits? Well, one of the things that the city of Sausalito has done is created this guide to emergency preparedness, and it has basics of everything you need, from how to create an emergency plan, how to create an emergency kit, and then what to do in case of fire, tsunami, mudslides, floods. So it's a great guide. It's available through the city of Sausalito, and it's also available online, and that link will be at the end of the tape. So what do they say we ought to have? What's one of the first things they talk about when you have your emergency plan? They make a good list. And over the years, we've offered basic emergency kits for you to get. And so I'm going to talk about what we've offered in those kits, and you might want to go get your kit if you have one and go through it, because it makes sense to take a look at it periodically. And one of the people I know that bought one about 4 years ago said, "Oh, I bought it, I put it in my trunk, and I haven't looked at it since." Well, it's important to look at it periodically. So what came in these kits? What do you need? One of the first things any kit needs to have is water. And in emergency kits, it usually comes in a 4-ounce container, and you get a bunch of them. And in this particular kit that we gave people, it came in a bag, so that if I didn't use the entire 4 ounces, I could empty it into this bag. Or if I was someplace I could get water, I have this water as well as the water that's in the bag. This is probably the heaviest thing that goes in your emergency kit, and you need to have at least enough for 3 days. All right, the second thing that's most important is food. In a basic emergency kit that you might buy, it comes like this, looking like rations. These are the cakes that are in here. This is awful to eat, but it would sustain you if you needed in an emergency and had nothing else to eat. Now, what I would suggest, while you may leave this in your kit, that you also think about having things that you like to eat in your kit, like power bars or granola bars or emergency nut bars, or little packages of nuts or raisins or various things that you like that you can eat as a snack. Now, these things need to be replaced. So one thing you can do is use your kit as a storage for these things, and then when you take them out to use them when you eat them in your home, you just replace them and put them in the kit. So you then have things that you want to eat. And you might want to get some flat packages of protein, like this tuna. All right, now food and water is important, but the next thing is not on most of the lists because things have changed so much and the lists haven't been done in a while. And that is having masks. So for fire, you want to have an N95 mask, and you want to have one for each person in your household, and just have those in your kit. You may also want to have a surgical mask, or if you've made your own cloth mask, you might want to have that. Mine that I've made has a pocket in it, so I can add a filter, which means that this is almost as good as an N95 mask. And if I didn't have a filter, or I ran out of them, I can cut up a coffee filter and put it inside and have almost as good as an N95 mask. So all those things, masks, are important. The other thing, of course, we're all using today is a lot of hand sanitizer. So you want to have some hand sanitizer. There are a couple of ways you can have it. This is a spray from Trader Joe's, and it has a little bit of scent, so it's not so alcoholic smelling, for cleaning things and cleaning your hands. And here is the gel also, particularly for cleaning your hands. And lastly, around the kind of protection things, you may want to get goggles. If it's very smoky, and or you're concerned about the virus, you may want to cover your eyes. This one is a plastic one, and when I looked at the grab-and-go kit I keep in my car that had been in there through a summer, it had melted. So this is not a great one to use. They're suggesting, or you keep it in the house and it only goes in your car when you're ready to go. They suggest that you may want to use swimming goggles because that really covers your eyes. And I haven't gotten one of those yet, but I will be. And lastly, a good pair of gloves that are cotton and or leather. You don't want a synthetic glove because if it was really hot, it could melt and burn your hands. This would let you have access to anything you needed to clean up and all. So that's another thing to add. Then the last thing that people not usually talk about is having a good flashlight. And this flashlight, which came in the kits that we sold you, is a crank flashlight. So I can always have light, but I have to be able to crank it. And then I can see. One of the things that I found to do when I take this sort of thing out of the box is I put the directions on here and cover it with a piece of tape. So if I'm in a hurry and I'm kind of panicked and I can't figure out things, I can read what to do to make it work. Now, some of us don't have the kind of hand mobility that we want to use that. So it's not bad to also have a second flashlight. This is a small one. I can put this on my wrist or hold it or attach it to something. One of the things, again, I do is I put on the outside the size of batteries that it takes so that if I'm looking for a new set of batteries, I don't have to take the whole thing apart to find the batteries to replace them. It's important if you put a battery-operated thing in your kit that you check this periodically because batteries leak. And if it leaks, then the flashlight may not work at all. So checking that periodically, at least once a year, is a really good idea. And also came in the kits was an emergency whistle on a lanyard. This would be a way to signal people, let people know where you are. If it's very smoky, they may be able to help find you. You also need the flashlight because of that. Even if it's very smoky, even during the day, you may not be able to see very well. This particular one that came in the kits, it unscrews and I can put matches in here, and it has a place to put strike matches, and it has a compass if I ever had to walk very far. But the important thing about any of this is having it around your neck so I can access it if I need to let people know that I have an emergency. Another thing that came in the basic kit was this emergency blanket, and we all recognize this from having seen them with the kids at the border. But this is a Mylar blanket that will keep you warm. You can use it to provide some protection or provide some privacy. The second thing that came is a Mylar sleeping bag, which makes it a little bit easier to sleep than this is hard to keep around you. This you can crawl into, and it keeps you, particularly if it's cold, it will keep you warm. Your body heat is reflected back on it. So those are both important to have. Now, this did not come in the kit, but you want to add to it a toiletries kit. This is basically what's in here is a roll of toilet paper that I have flattened, some antiseptic wipes, a bar of soap that I have put in a plastic bag so that when I use it, I can then have a place to put it back. And you may want to have some pads, and I've also added matches. That seemed just like a good place to put the matches. And then an emergency first aid kit. This kind of a kit comes in the basic. It has bandages, it has aspirin, it has Tylenol, it has some alcohol wipes, and it has a small first aid guide. But I think you need more than that, so I have some big bandages and some more antiseptic wipes. I have disposable gloves in case I have to clean up something that's not too hot so they don't melt. And I have ace bandages and a warm-up thing and another whistle in here. So if somebody turns their ankle, hurts their knee, you have a way of taking care of that. And lastly, a hygiene kit, which contains 2 toothbrushes, some Kleenex, some cleansing towels, some toothpaste, and I put my eye mask in here. If I was someplace that I wanted to sleep and it was bright, I wanted to have something that I can cover my eyes with. The other thing that I'm a CERT, so I have a CERT field guide, which tells me about fighting fires, it tells me about first aid, and I keep this in my kit because that's a place to find it, and if I'm in a panic situation, I can read, if I can calm myself down enough, what to do, because I may not remember. I probably won't remember. And lastly, duct tape. This has got a million uses, as anybody that goes camping or knows. So having a roll of this may not be the best way to have it with all this hole in the middle, but having some duct tape and a couple of 3x5 cards and a pen, which I can then write things on. And the last thing that they highly recommend is, because if we lose electricity, we won't be able to use credit cards, we won't be able to charge with our cell phones, having cash. And this cash is 1s and 5s and a few $10 bills, because people aren't going to be able to make change. I put this in a bag so I could just wear this around my waist if I wanted to in leaving. And those are the things that basically you would put in your basic emergency kit. And as PG&E shows it, you want to have a kit with your grab-and-go bag in it.